Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me spend some more time with you. I do appreciate it. Um, Friendly reminder, like, share, subscribe, notifications, all those things you got to click to make us easier to find. So there's your reminder. If you are listening to the audio only, I hope you at some point in time will go to either YouTube or Rumble and check out the video. Just helps us up in the analytics. That's all it does. And by the way, if you're looking at YouTube, remember to let that video play all the way through. No matter who you're watching, it just helps everybody out. Boosts everybody. So just something to think about. I'm going to continue today. And if you haven't got your copy of Inheriting Lies yet, it is available, authorjerrymitchell.com or givegod90.com, and follow the links. It'll get you where you want to go, because that's what we're looking at. Sort of comes out of Inheriting Lies. I'm going to deviate just a little bit today to give you some more background for the people who haven't been listening or who have not read the books. I said something the other day that the blood of a sacrifice is never wasted. It is always used for a purpose. So that being said, let's keep going. I've got some ground to cover today. A lot of Christians get caught up with the sacrificial system. And they think that because Yeshua, Jesus, was crucified, that the sacrifices have no value today. The problem with that is the historical value of understanding them. Okay? Do you realize that not all of the feasts outlined in Leviticus 23 require an animal sacrifice? Notice I emphasize the word sacrifice here. There is a difference between a sacrifice, an offering, and a burnt offering. Okay? There's also a difference in a wave offering. And I'm not going to get into all of the gory details. With a sacrifice, the blood's used for a purpose. An offering can simply be a free will offering of maybe grain, it may be oil, it may be wine. It may be used by the priests at some point in time. It may not be, depending on what it is. If it's a burnt sacrifice, or a burnt offering, then naturally it's not going to be used by the priest. It's, just a offering that is made. It's something that's freely given without any expectation of anything in return. Did you know that? And probably the most basic way to break all that down, and it can be more complicated, right? But when you get into the depth and details, there's not a whole lot of reason for me to go into that right now. You just need to remember a sacrifice, the blood is always used. With an offering, it's different. It can be a wave offering. It can be a free will offering. And even though they may be commanded, they have a different purpose. They have a different purpose. The Sabbath, of course, is the first feast mentioned in Leviticus 23, and there's no sacrifice for that. There's no offering for that, really. No sacrifice unless, of course, you think that resting for a day is a sacrifice. Okay? Passover requires a sacrifice. I've already gone over that in the previous episode. There's no animal sacrifice for the week of unleavened bread. First fruits does require a lamb along with grain and oil, and a wave offering as well. I'm going to be a little sarcastic here, and I'm going to say it is the first spring barbecue for the Creator. There's a lot more to it than that, of course, but I'm not making light of it. I'm trying to give you a way to remember it. All right. Of course, Shavuot, or Feast of Weeks, does require both offering and burnt offering. It was the feast where the people were gathered in Jerusalem, and the disciples were accused of being drunk in the morning. Peter's like, wait a minute, they're not drunk. It's only 9 o'clock. Later in the day, might have been a different story, but it's only 9 o'clock in the morning. The Christian church now calls this Pentecost. I've heard it called birthday of the church, the first church holy day, and some other things that go along with that. Now, the feast wasn't designed to be any of those things. Remember, the day, it's designed to remember the day that our Creator came down on Mount Sinai and spoke the 10 matters of the 10 commandments. And it's lost in the Christian traditions because they've corrupted the already unclear pictures, right? So it's very, very difficult for Christians to understand exactly what it is because it's been further corrupted. It's kind of like taking a photograph that's already kind of hazy and blurry and crumpling it up and then trying to lay it out flat and figure out what it was. The first day of the 7th month is celebrated by shouting and blowing the shofar, blowing the trumpets. No sacrifice required of any kind. It's also the only day that falls on the new moon, a day. Now, these are appointed times, right? These are appointed times. The calendar is designed specifically for these days. So why in the world would God make a day where you have to be watching for the new moon in order to know that it's a feast day? Well, you have to be watching. You have to look at the signs. You have to understand, the waning moon as it comes down and disappears, and you're waiting in anticipation for it to come back so that you can celebrate. But because atmospheric conditions, you're not exactly sure which day it might be. Maybe it's cloudy, might be raining. But you've been watching, you've been waiting, you're ready for it, and all of a sudden, there it is. Sound familiar? It should. Of course, I've gone over that in previous podcasts in much more detail. The next feast would be Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. I'm not going to go into that right now. I will go into that in the next episode in great detail. Great detail. The Feast of Booths or Tabernacles, Sukkot, is next. There are traditional offerings made along with everyone moving into those temporary shelters for a week. Some people call it the Great Camping Feast nowadays. Sometimes it's called the Feast of Hotels because a lot of people will move into a hotel in Jerusalem and stay there for a week. It's their way they can get a temporary shelter in Jerusalem. It's a time of celebration. It's often referred to as the Great Feast. And on the 8th day, there's an additional celebration, often referred to as the last great day, because of the Great Feast. It's the last great day. And that's why I often, kind of jokingly refer to the Feast of Sukkot or the Feast of Tabernacles as a 7-day feast that lasts for 8 days, because it kind of does. And hopefully, the way I describe these give you a little more understanding about them. If you're not familiar with them, I really hope that you become familiar with them. And what I really wanted you to understand today is that not all of the feasts require a sacrifice. Even though there's animal offerings, the blood of those animals is not used for a special purpose. There is a difference. There is a big difference. An offering is a free will offering that, it's something freely given. Even though it is commanded, you will do it. A sacrifice is more demanded. Okay? It's something that you have to do. Well, up until a certain point in time. And don't forget that during the time of the exile, none of these were accomplished. It wasn't possible to be done. And after the fall of the temple, it wasn't possible for these things to be done. For good reason. Even though I'm not going to dig into Yom Kippur, there's something I need to say briefly about this. there's a reason that the high priest was required to make a sacrifice of a bull for himself and his family. Leviticus 16:6, Aaron is to present a bull for his sin offering and make atonement for himself and his household. And what I want to talk about here is the discussion as to how this applies. Was it just the high priest and the immediate family, or was it for the entire Levitical priesthood, or what would become the entire Levitical priesthood? With the information I currently have, I sort of lean toward it being the entire Levitical priesthood. I might find something later to argue against that. I haven't found it yet. But if you remember in Exodus 19, the whole mixed multitude was to be a nation of priests. But they violated that with the golden calf. They violated the covenant. That became impossible. But it was the Levites who actually stood with Moses, and that action led them to being selected to lead the religious portion of the nation. Okay? But remember, it was Aaron who made the golden calf. So sacrificing the bull actually had a dual meaning, right? It reminded them that the golden calf was made by Aaron. So the Levitical priests were the ones who offered that idol, right? And they needed something to set them apart as well, because they had already been set apart. So now they had the bull to remind them their sins needed to be covered because of the bull, because of the golden calf, but also because they were the ones who were now separate. They couldn't own property. They didn't have a portion of the land. So because they didn't have a portion of the land, that's the same thing that would cover the nation, they needed that additional covering. That's about all I'm going to get into today, because in the next episode, I'm going to really dig into the goats, and you'll see why. It's quite interesting when you clarify some of the unclear pictures of good things to come. And what we can see is actually revealed in the rest of the Bible. So, something to think about until next time. And until then, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.